really want to succeed long term, this piece is huge. It's so important to be able to read the people in front of you and to be able to adapt your knowledge around training to different ways. If you're excited about finally getting certified, but you're already starting to feel anxious about actually training clients and you don't feel like you know what it looks like to actually be a good trainer, I promise you're not alone. This video is for you. I can still remember exactly how I felt when I got certified. This was like 2006. I think it was the A certification was the first one that I took. Don't judge me. I've taken them all since then. And funny enough, I actually totaled my car when I was on my way to take the exam, but I told the tow truck driver, I was like, I gotta go take this thing, take me. Thankfully, I passed my certification and I was super pumped. I had put months and months, and I'm talking like full days, 8 to 10 hour days of studying into learning the information so I could pass the exam. I was excited at first, but I still remember when I got home and I was starting to do some planning, right? I already had a job lined up at the gym that I was working at, I had my first client, and I was thinking about and writing out like, what am I gonna do with this person? And I had this feeling of just pure panic that came over me. I'm like, oh my God, I actually don't know what to do. It sounds silly right now, but I knew what I did in the gym and I knew a lot about the human body, but I had never really connected the dots that like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to coach this person through these things and I don't know how they're gonna respond. Like, how am I gonna deal with that? So in the beginning, I honestly just trained people like I trained myself. And it got me where I am and I learned a lot in the process, but I did not like that feeling. And that was what motivated me to take so many courses and mentorships and programs over the next 10 years. It's become really obvious now getting to work with so many students like you guys that there's just a misconception on the steps in the process to get started. Certification is absolutely the first step. Anyone who tells you any different is wrong. We've got to learn this foundational information, but to be confident in what you're doing, there's a little gap in there. And that's what we call being qualified. So in this video, I'm gonna take you guys through why exactly certification is not enough, what certification is and what it isn't, so that if you're going through the process to get certified, you know what to expect, or if you're already certified, probably confirm a little bit of how you guys are feeling. Then we're gonna talk about, okay, what is certification versus qualification? Maybe where you are right now and what we need to get you leveled up on to get you in a better place so you feel confident training clients. And then the third piece is like, what are the exact steps to get you there? Before we go too much further in this video, I want to point out the fact that this is not about certification versus qualification. It's more about understanding how these fit together and why certification is still the most important first step, right? You're watching this video, if you're studying or you're thinking about getting into it, you absolutely need to go through certification first, because getting certified in anything, especially in personal training, is all about learning the information, right? It's the knowledge piece that is the foundational element to go on and apply. So when we look at the difference between what does it mean to be certified versus qualified, well, first off, the certification is very much focused on you passing an exam. You might love that, you might hate it, it is what it is, but it comes down to, can you recognize the right information on the actual exam to get it right and to move on? That's going to be a little different than knowing how to problem solve something in real life, but it's still the important first step. Think about it this way. You need to understand what are the quadriceps, the vastus medialis, the vastus lateralis, the rectus femoris, before you have the knowledge to problem solve someone's lunge technique. It's going to help you understand why you might angle their foot one way or the other. And so you can't skip that step in the process. So although I'm a believer that certification is not enough for most of you guys, it's still an important first step, because it is about learning the theory, learning the science, learning some of this foundational info of the body so that we can go on and do these other things. But really it comes down to certification is about building your knowledge base. Building the knowledge base in which you're going to go apply your information on, and that's really what it is to build skills. Skills are more involved, right? Skills take getting experience doing and trying something, making mistakes, and then getting better. And that's really what we do when we talk about getting qualified. Someone who's a qualified personal trainer or qualification in anything, it's more about your application of knowledge. Have you had the opportunity to apply the knowledge, especially maybe under the guidance of others who can give you feedback so you can constantly improve? Even in the beginning for me, I didn't have a lot of mentorship early on, but the opportunity for me to just train more and more bodies was a huge part of moving me further towards a qualified trainer. And just to give you guys something to compare to, oftentimes certified trainers who may not have much experience, maybe you can relate to this, oftentimes they're unconfident in the actual coaching component. They might know, hey, I'm pretty sure that most clients should probably squat and hinge and lunge and push and pull, the movement patterns. But when it comes to understanding how to coach and cue someone through those and how to problem solve any issues that come up, oftentimes they're not very confident because they just haven't done it that much. They haven't had the opportunity to get better. On the other side too, certification doesn't really teach you how to program. You learn about programming, you learn about macro cycles and micro cycles and mesocycles, and that things should be broken up in these components, but you don't have a lot of opportunities to like test your skills and try it out. Qualified trainers are much more confident in these things. And the other big gap for a lot of people who might be certified but haven't quite stepped out on the gym floor yet, maybe this is you, is there's a lot of nervousness and anxiety about like, how am I gonna connect and communicate with people? Am I gonna be able to get and retain clients? And so hopefully this can be helpful for you guys. We talked about certification versus qualification just from a broad perspective. Now looking at what does it mean to be a certified trainer versus a qualified trainer. So I'm gonna give you guys some examples that I think are pretty important. Certified trainers, like Joe Drake back in 2006, I knew more exercises than anybody in the gym, right? I mean, I was coming up with stuff all the time, but I can't tell you I had any idea how to put it all together. Each individual exercise was cool and it was challenging, but it was kind of random, right? So you might know a lot of exercises, but may not necessarily know how to put them all together in a logical way that's gonna lead to a certain result. And like I mentioned before, this was me. I only trained my clients how I trained because it's really all I knew. I didn't know anything else. I hadn't had any other opportunities to run through programs that were geared towards any other goal sets. So it worked for me in some ways, but honestly, as I look back, it didn't for a lot of clients. Because of that, oftentimes there's kind of this like winging it component. And I don't mean you're not planning for sessions, although a lot of trainers do that too. They just kind of show up. I was planning for clients, but as I mentioned, like each workout was kind of individually good, but they weren't all really connected. Like Monday and Wednesday and Friday didn't really have a logical connection and progression. And how I changed things week to week wasn't super logical and it wasn't really systemized. So I was kind of winging it on a regular basis of figuring out where we're going with our programming, you know, just based upon what I thought was cool and I thought what, you know, they might like. And certified trainers oftentimes lack confidence in systems, as I mentioned. Thankfully, I got a lot of experience early on and was smart enough to start investing in these other courses and other, you know, trainings. And so my confidence went up, but that took me quite some time. And I'll be honest, guys, it was probably 5 years in before I felt like I had a consistent system for training. That doesn't have to be you though, right? Qualified trainers, they know how to do it, right? They know how. They just don't know the exercises, but they know how to put it all together and they know how to coach someone, right? Someone comes and they show up and their back's hurting on a certain day and they're trying to go into a squat. Well, they know how to problem solve that because they've been there before, they've tried things, they've seen what work with other people. They also understand programming better than me. You know, they know how to put together exercises, not just within a workout to create a great flow, but also within that week. How do I organize things in a logical progression based upon how many days my clients can train and their goals? And then also, how do I program and progress it week after week? Qualified trainers also are much better at customizing their approach. I mentioned I kind of trained everyone like I did, which, you know, again, it worked well for me. I don't know how well it really worked for the other people, but qualified trainers know how to take that and not only customize it to the personality, but also customize it to their goal set, customize it to maybe their preferred styles of training. There's so many things that go into that. And especially if you really want to succeed long-term, this piece is huge. It's so important to be able to read the people in front of you and to be able to adapt your knowledge around training to different ways, right? It means you have a much broader toolbox that you know how to work with. Within that too, like qualified trainers can very easily, and only because they've gotten the chance to fail at it too, adapt on the fly. Because without a doubt, if you guys train long enough, the body's gonna show up different ways, different days. And so you've gotta have the ability to take what you already have planned and shift and change those things in the moment. And an easy way for you guys to think about this idea of being certified versus qualified, if you guys wanted to challenge me to a baking competition and you put me against an experienced baker, right? And you gave us both the exact same recipe, I can guarantee you, you're not gonna wanna eat what I cook, right? Meaning it's very different to cook with a recipe. You can give me the recipe, but there's a lot of things that go into like how you do it all, right? There's like timings of how you cook something. You know, it's probably how you sprinkle the salt in it. I don't know, because I don't know. I'm not a cook, I'm not a baker, but big difference between using the recipe, right? The certification knowledge versus someone who's spent hours and hours and hours in the kitchen and they know exactly how to get the temperature to the right place and how to test the food at the right time. All right, I promise you don't want to eat my goods, you don't want to eat my baking. No matter what, remember, getting certified is just the beginning. And if you're still watching this video and anything that I talked about resonates with you, if you're struggling with any of these things or you're not feeling confident in something, leave me a comment below this video. Let me know specifically what it is you're struggling with. Or, as I talked about, if you want some immediate feedback, you want to get some mentorship in the process, then just know you can book a call in directly with me. This is not a sales pitch, but just an opportunity to jump on and problem solve some of this stuff with you, figure out where you are, where you're trying to go, and how we can help.